You're warmly welcome, and especially those following online from all over the world, and for those on site in Wadi El Natrum. And this is a quite short press conference, and we have a distinguished panel, and they are all invited to have a short introduction on 2 to 3 minutes, and then we open up for questions. And for those following online, you just type in the chat box, and my colleagues Marcelo and Klaus is able to stay in touch with you and make sure that we will also provide space for asking questions. So let me introduce the panel. We have Reverend Professor Dr. Jerry Pillet, General Secretary of the World Council of Churches. We have Reverend Professor Dr. Stephanie Dietrich, Moderator of the Commission on Faith and Order of the World Council of Churches. We have Professor Dr. Michelle Ups, Secretary General of the Middle East Council of Churches. His Eminence Archbishop Angelos of London. His Eminence Metropolitan Thomas of Nicosia and Mir, and member of the WCC Central Committee. And His Grace Bishop Abraham, Bishop of the Diocese of Los Angeles, Southern California and Hawaii, and a member of the World Council of Churches Central Committee. And Dr. Andre Jeftek, Director of Faith and Order Commission. I would like to invite Dr. Pillet to enter the floor and
thank you. Well, let me begin by saying something about the. Let me begin by saying something about the World Council of Churches. The World Council of Churches was constituted in 1948, just after the Second World War, when Christian leaders came together to ask, how can we speak into the context of war and violence and conflict and bring peace? And so unity became the focal point, but also dealing with issues of justice and global challenges. And that's precisely what we continue to do even today as well. Now, this meeting that we have here with the Faith and Order Conference is an attempt which has been in place for many years now, bringing together members of the World Council of Churches. We have 356 member churches with over 600 million people who are part of the organization or fellowship through the membership within churches, and that's denominations, in 120 countries in the world. And this movement has been pivotal as the Faith and Order to bring in churches that are not full members of the WCC, like the Roman Catholic Church, but they have been participating with us for many years now, talking about how do we understand faith and order, theology, and have these discussions on doctrine and issues that may have divided Christians over the centuries. How do we find our way together? And those are the conversations that we've been having. So this moment we meet here in Egypt, hosted by Orthodox Church and other member churches in the area. And we are so grateful to receive such wonderful hospitality from the Coptic Church, who have blessed us in so many different ways already in this wonderful space and providing for us a good opportunity to meet. So this year is a very special ecumenical year for the World Council of Churches. We have celebrated a number of major ecumenical events, like the we had a Berlin conference where we talked about the declarations. We talked about the Stockholm Conference of Life and Work movement that spoke about practical Christianity. We had recently a conference in Athens dealing with issues in terms of social justice and particularly focusing on international affairs and what's happening in different parts of the world. We are now meeting at this point in time where we are having a major conference. It's not the end of our conferencing for this year, but it is a culmination of all the activities that we have been doing in this ecumenical year. We now bring faith and order into discussion. And this year is the year we celebrate 1,700 years of the Nicene Creed. And the Nicene Creed has helped bring Christians together in unity. And we are now discussing what does that unity mean for us today as we live in these times with the global challenges that we face, and how do we understand this, and how do we allow the creed to speak to us, but how do we also allow our context in which we are found to be able to ask, how does the creed speak to the context? And so we are having conversations, not only among ourselves who are members of churches that are creedal, but we also have invited other churches that may not necessarily use the creed as much to have conversations with us on the same topic. And our focus is on also global challenges as we look at issues of injustices in the world, and as we look at all the global aspects of where the world is in trouble and in distress. We are asking, how does faith make a difference to transform the world, to make the world a better place for all people and for all creation?
Thanks, Dr. Pelé. Then we turn to Reverend Professor Dr. Stephanie Dietrich, the moderator of the Commission on Faith and Order. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for allowing me to present a little bit more about faith and order. As told, I'm the moderator, so I don't work in the WCC, but I live in Oslo and live and teach in Oslo. The Faith and Order Commission is the broadest theological commission that exists on earth, with theologians from all tradition and all corners of the world. We are 60 members, around 60 members, and we gather to discuss matters of faith and order. So we are doing theological dialogue with the goal to search for visible unity. That is also, as you have seen, the main theme for our gathering here, the World Conference. Now, we don't do world conferences very often. This is the first one since 1993. So it is really a milestone. It's a historic event for all of us to be able to gather here in Egypt. The last conference was in Santiago de Compostela. So the theme for our conference here is Where Now for Visible Unity. We are discussing how faith, Christian faith, Christian life, mission, and also the whole understanding of unity can be shaped and understood in today's world. We are coming with a very basic understanding that the world is divided and the churches are divided, and it's our obligation. We need to seek unity, both for the sake of the churches and for the sake of the world. Many achievements have been made. The whole movement really started to work in 1927 with the Lausanne. So a lot has been achieved, but a lot still remains to do. And this is why we are gathering here, around 400 people. We are both the members of the Faith and Order Commission, delegates from many of the churches, and also a very good amount of young people who are attending a global ecumenical theological training here. So the conference looks actually quite different than the last conference. It's much broader with representation from all over the world. So this is what we are doing, and it's certainly a privilege to be in a Coptic Orthodox context, which is historic. We have never been hosted by the Coptic Orthodox Church. We never had any Faith and Order conference in Egypt. So it is really a historic moment for us to gather here.
Thank you, Dr. Dietrich. Then we turn to Professor Dr. Michel Abbs, Secretary General for the Middle East Council of Churches. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, as a matter of fact, maybe we need to underline some element to clarify the situation, the relationship between MECC and WCC. The churches which make the MECC, which is the regional ecumenical body of the Middle East, are members at WCC. So whenever there is an activity being done in an area, there is a sort of coordination or a harmony in work between WCC and the MECC and or any other regional ecumenical body. I have to say that in this respect, the coordination, the harmony, the cooperation is exemplary, I think, between WCC and MECC, and we're happy for that, because we feel that we are one within the international ecumenical family. Now, Nicaea, 1700, maybe it's about time, maybe it was about time 100 years ago or 100 years later, to see where do we stand living together, accepting one faith, dealing with this one faith. What have this one faith, this one creed done for this, for humanity? It's good to make from time to time, as we say in French, une pause au bout d'un chemin and look backward to see what have we achieved, where do we stand in this process. So it's a fundamental, I mean, we're talking to history, 1700 years of a fundamental Christian text out of 2025 years of Christianity. So it's good that we discuss and we see where do we stand in unity, although I have a different point of view. I talked about yesterday, but unity is there and we try to live it better. Egypt is very symbolic for such meetings, because Egypt is the place where the Holy Family took refuge when they were persecuted. For us, it's a very important place as MECC, since the Egyptian Christianity, and more precisely the Coptic Orthodox Church, the See of St. Mark, are very important, are a milestone, are really exemplary or a distinguished place in the history of, in the place of Christianity worldwide. We have the one of the biggest church in the Middle East is in Egypt. She's member of the MECC. We deal with them on a almost daily basis. We had already the experience of holding our General Assembly in 2022 in this place, and we experienced the high efficiency, the very good hospitality, and the all the what is needed to have is an event succeed. This assembly, what I would like in this assembly now, what I'm living is this great togetherness the WCC was able to make among Christians from different nations, different cultures, and so on. They are gathered here, they talk to each other, they meet each other. This is what Christianity is about, to the togetherness, to stay together, to talk, to discuss, and so on, whatever is our theological orientation, whatever is the denomination. In this respect, I'm thanking God for this event, and let it be blessed. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Abs. Then we will turn to His Eminence Metropolitan Thomas of Nicosia and Mir, also a member of the Central Committee of WCC.
The significance of having this great conference here at that moment, at that very place, is going back, linking the old time and the new time. The old happenings were in Alexandria, where the city that gathered a lot of different backgrounds, that is called the cosmopolitan city, where the theological school of Alexandria were very famous and very significant in its impact to the whole world at that time. And the second thing that is very significant at that time, that Alexandria, where actually the Arian heresy started, was very significant also in that theological battle and conflict within this area. So here, there was the problem, there was the glory of solutions as well happened, because St. Athanasius and the great patriarchs of the great See of Alexandria, like Alexandros and Athanasius and Cyril, all these great theologians, they were able to contain that problem and make it much more effective to the whole society. Plus, it's not only the intellectual part of that significant city, it's also the monastic tradition that was very much flourishing in Egypt, that gave a lot of spirituality to that solutions. So here we link the spirit, the spirituality of the Christian life and the intellectuality of the theology, that makes it much more important for the solution. And here we are gathered here in the same place, in that church that it carried the theological school of Alexandria as history and the monastic tradition as history. And here we gather in the monastery of San Bishoy, in the papal residency of the center Logos. And here is also the school of Alexandria still alive in every person here in this city. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Eminence, Metropolitan Thomas. Then we turn to His Eminence Archbishop Angelus of London. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mariam. We know that the Christian model is to be the body of Christ, and with our Lord Jesus Christ as its head. So it is always good for the church to come together. I suppose the wider context for us is that the Coptic Orthodox Church is not just living in this historical glory of ecumenism in the early councils, and especially for us, Saint Athanasius was such a fundamental and pivotal figure in our church, but also in the church at large. But it is still a reality of the church's engagement today in its ecumenical engagement locally, regionally, and globally, and no more visible than in its presence in the World Council of Churches with His Eminence Metropolitan Thomas and His Grace Bishop Abraham and their wonderful influence so far. To be hosted here is also very important because our world today seems to want to focus on difference and conflict. And this is a time where we can come together. We are different churches. We have different ecclesiology. We have slightly different theology, and we cannot undermine or underplay that. But we can all come together around the creed, the pivotal witness of faith that has withstood 1700 years. I was just saying recently that if you're sitting in a committee meeting with 20 people trying to come to an agreement on something that will last beyond next week is a challenge. And yet to have 318 bishops and the people who supported them meeting, and for this proclamation of faith, which was obviously spirit-led and inspired to last 1700 years, is important for all of us. We speak about visible unity. It cannot just be a catch cry. Our coming together here is visible unity, even in just being in one place, as we see in the beginning of the book of Acts, where they're in one place with one accord. They're still different and they're still distinct. And yet our Lord says that through our love for each other, they will know that we are one. We're not necessarily one in doctrine completely, but we are one as the body of Christ, variety at the moment. Being here in particular is a monastic area, and the significance of that is two of the four pillars of the Coptic Orthodox Church are its theology, with Saint Athanasius and Saint Cyril and the Creed, and the second is with its monastic movement. And being here today is a wonderful way to demonstrate that. Very quickly at the end, we know that when there are challenges to faith, and Saint Athanasius was dealing with those challenges, Saint Anthony the Great, the father of monasticism, left the monastery and went into the cities of Alexandria to help support. And so for us to be gathered here to proclaim what we have in common and to be a light to the world at a time of conflict, of war, of disaster, but also of hope is incredibly important.
Thank you, Your Eminence. Then we will turn to His Grace Bishop Abraham, the Bishop of the Diocese of Los Angeles, Southern California and Hawaii, and a member of WCC Central Committee. The floor is yours.
The Coptic Church has made a great efforts to host this important conference in the life of the World Council of Churches and in the pursuit of faith and order unity. Of course, with warm hospitality, preparations began and were marked by the active of participation of youth, of the Coptic youth, in all aspects of logistical organization. The venue was carefully prepared here as mentioned before, that we are here in wilderness of Shahid, Wadi in Natrun, and at St. Shoy Monastery, and in Logos Conference Center. Of course, many preparation has made since we knew from the council that these important events will be held in this place. And I can say that hundreds of people contributed in preparations of this event. And also the number of participants to ensure the meeting spaces appeared in the best possible way. The significant contribution of young people in the preparation, as you see the stewards, among the participants, guests from the Coptic Church. In this preparation process was particularly evident alongside the importance role of the government. Also, we had a contact with the government to facilitate everything from receiving at the airports, organizing visits to the historical and touristic sites.
Thank you, Your Grace. Then we turn to Dr. Andrei Jeftik, who is the Director of Faith and Order Commission. The floor is yours, Andrei.
Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here with you, and it's really be a pleasure to come and witness the fruits of our work of preparing this gathering coming to life. We have been about the gathering, and the church has been gathering ever since it's coming to existence, ever since early centuries. And gatherings have been always a vehicle to manifest the existence and the unity of the church, to resolve conflicts, to build a community and a fellowship, but also to cast and shape a vision for the future of our life together. So in many ways, gathering is already fulfilling a purpose of why are we gathering. The question then becomes, who is gathering here? You have heard that we have 250 participants and even more. Together with Getty students, we have 350. With local visitors, we have up to 400 participants on a daily basis. In addition to that, we have a number of people who are attending the conference live and watching the live stream. So it is really a representation of the global fellowship of Christianity, coming from all given Christian church traditions, from Orthodox, both Oriental and Eastern, Catholic, Protestant, Evangelical, Pentecostal, and so on. So it's a very diverse group of people who have come together for this meeting. And it's very intergenerational, coming from all of the regions of the world. As we gather, we engage with one another by building a sense of fellowship, enjoying the time in the coffee breaks and lunch, but primarily the time of prayer. Every day in our gathering here starts and ends with the prayer. And in between, we have different forms of program through which we dialogue with one another, converse, discuss, listen to, learn from one another, and share the wisdom that comes from our traditions. And why do we do so? Because not only that we want to strengthen and reinforce the fellowship that we share, we want to look at honestly and frankly at the differences that separate us and the visions that still enable us to be with one another, and try to address them and reconcile and regain the unity that we might have lost. And eventually we need to, and we are trying to protect the unity that we have built through different ways, and cast the vision for the future of our work as the Faith and Order Commission, but also as a wider fellowship of churches that is engaging in the ecumenical dialogue together. In that regard, we are extremely excited and humbled by the gracious hospitality of the Coptic Orthodox Church, of His Holiness Pope Tavedros II, who has welcomed us here, and moved by the spirit, the generosity of all who are involved in preparing and making this gathering possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Jeftik. Then it's time for the journalists to ask questions to the panel. And we might begin with the journalist on site, and then we turn to those online. And we have to use the microphone.
Thank you very much. I'm Dagmar Heller from Germany. I'm here for the Ökumenische Rundschau, which is an ecumenical journal in Germany. Besides that, I am very much occupied with getting to know better the Orthodox churches, and therefore I have a question to the eminences from the Coptic Orthodox Church. I find it a very good sign that you host this conference here, and this is a sign, of course, that you are open to ecumenical dialogue. But in this regard, I'm wondering a little bit, I know that I think it was last year, if I'm not mistaken, that the Coptic Orthodox Church stopped the dialogue with the Roman Catholic Church. I'm just wondering, is there any future that this dialogue might be resumed, or what are there any attempts to resume that, or what is the situation?
Thanks, Dr. Heller. Then I'm looking at the panel from Coptic Orthodox churches. Your Eminence.
I think here the word stop the dialogue was not clear. It's re-evaluating the methodology of the dialogue. So I think the re-evaluating the methodology of the dialogue is a much better way to put it there. So the dialogue is not stopped, but it is re-evaluated in this direction. But the Coptic Church from the beginning is committed to the dialogue and reconciliation with all the Christians in the world, but also not only Christian, but with the whole world, because this is our feelings. It's we are not staying away from the global community. And for us, it's very simple, like a good tree with good roots. And as long as the roots are strong enough, the branches of that tree would be open up where there is no fear of any interactions. So that's why the security where our community having is the roots of the church, where we have very much rooted in the biblical text, in the tradition church, with the fathers of the church, with the explanation, with all the history of monasticism, with all the history of the theological schools, and all the activities that is now very much empowering the church. The church is very secured within itself, are able to communicate with the others in truth and love, because this is the love that we need to carry, but also the truth and the love will be the two wings of the dialogue.
Thank you, Your Eminence. Then we turn to His Eminence Archbishop Angelos.
I also think in the past 5 decades, when you look at the leadership of the late Pope Shenouda III and currently the leadership of His Holiness Pope Tawadros II, there has been an openness even when there has been challenge. We've tried to overcome the challenges, and we've been very clear about what dialogue means. Dialogue doesn't mean agreement. It means continuing to keep an open door and continuing to work even when there is difference, but we remain committed to those processes.
Thank you, Your Eminence. Then we will turn to a question online. I think we have Reverend Jane Strands.
Hello, I'm speaking to you from Paris for the Ecumenical and Protestant journal Foi et Vie. And I have a question, I suppose, to all panelists. You've spoken in what you've said to us about the challenge to faith in the past 1,700 years ago. What do you see as the challenges to faith today, both in church and in society, do those challenges come more from within the churches, or do those challenges to faith come more from society? And what does that mean for the agenda of faith and order into the future? Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Jane Strands. Then I think we turn to maybe the moderator of Faith and Order.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question, which is a huge question. And I think it's certainly very complex when it comes to the challenges to faith in the different regions of the world. The region where I am coming from in Europe, the challenges would be that less and less people actually are members of churches, and that there's a huge decrease. The secularization is very present. On the other hand, we also see that many young people for the moment are searching the church again after a generation that has left the church. While in other parts of the world, we know that there's a lot of faith. Our African friends say that it's very extraordinary not to believe. And churches are growing, but it's not necessarily the traditional churches. What Faith and Order does now is that we have somehow an approach called broadening the table, because we realize that both faith communities and the ways faith is experienced in all over the world is diversifying. And so also the conversation and the people who are sitting at the conversation table, the table has to be broadened. For our agenda in Faith and Order, that means, for instance, also that we now have a project in one of the study groups to work on decolonization, which is a new theme within the context of Faith and Order. What does it mean to decolonize theology, to decolonize ecclesiology? We also have a study group now working on anthropology, the understanding of humankind in the time of AI, and the whole revolution that is going on. And one of the groups is focusing on how can we be church in a time where there is climate crisis, war, huge crisis, injustice all over the world, dehumanization. So Faith and Order doesn't only talk about internal ways of structuring or understanding the church, but also very much of what it means to be church in the world. And we strongly believe that churches that involve in the life of the people and in the life of the world also are experienced as relevant spaces for people to seek hope and to seek fellowship and community.
Thanks, Dr. Dietrich. Then we turn to Dr. Pillay.
Well, I think the challenges are both ways, as you say. It's the challenges are within society, but the challenges are also within church. How does church actually reflect and deal with societal changes? And we cannot bypass the fact that society is in crisis, the world is in crisis, we are facing global crises, and we have to be able to respond to that as people of faith. Within the context, has already been said, but I will add to that and reinforce it too. Apart from the issue of secularization, there is also the question of materialism. How do we deal with issues of prosperity, the prosperity gospel, and the old task of materialism that seems to be flooding the minds and hearts and desires and visions and dreams of many people? So what do people of faith have to say about these kind of experiences as well? Added to that is the climate catastrophe that we are facing. The issue of poverty continues to live with us. Economic injustices are very real. Gender injustices are very real. And also migration issues. But today, also very seriously, is the issue of digital justice. And we are facing now the rise of technology, and our technology are replacing human beings. And whilst technology is very good and is helping us to do a lot of things that we were not able to do in the past, but we have to have some very deeply theological, in as much as ethical questions about the use of technology. So all of these things are very, very serious issues. And young people particularly are struggling with different issues, as with all people in this world. How does the church relate to that? But in the same context, we have to ask the challenges of the church. How do we engage God's mission in the world? How do we think about proclaiming the gospel message in new ways without changing the substance of our faith? Does the styles of how we proclaim our faith have to change with the times to be relevant, to speak relevantly into the context of people's daily life struggles? And so we need also as churches renewal, revitalization, and the ability to rethink how we proclaim and propagate our mission in the world. So the challenges are indeed both ways. But the biggest challenge is the issue of what is happening in the global front, and how do we reach out to provide, as people of faith, answers to all of these challenges. But remember that we also work not only with Christians, we work with people of other faiths. We work with NGOs, a number of them, all of them with a common vision and purpose and mission of helping to create a better world for all people. One of the biggest issues that we are facing right now, as you would know, is the issue of the wars. And one of the things that the WCC is very involved in is peacemaking initiatives, peacekeeping initiatives, because this is absolutely necessary right now in the situation in which we find ourselves in a global crisis of war and violence. And so these are the contextual aspects which are global and not just related to specific contexts, but they're global issues where faith needs to be seeking understanding. And that's what theology is all about. Faith, seeking, searching for understanding. How do we see God? And how does God see us in the context in which we are found?
Thanks, Dr. Pelé. Then we have two more questions, what I have seen in the room, and then we have one or two more online. I think we will begin on the front row with Elia.
Hello, I'm Elia Nasrallah from the Middle East Council of Churches. In fact, in a world immersed with hate speech and in light of all these conferences and global issues, we have the youth who are still searching for a better future and who are the future leaders and ecumenical leaders also. So how do you think they can play a role in promoting Christian unity and human values amidst all the challenges today? Thank you.
Thank you, Elia. Then we have His Eminence Archbishop Angelos.
Since its inception, the church has been built on the understanding of discipleship. From our Lord gathering his 12 disciples, then his apostles. And so for young people now, they will only follow in the footsteps that are laid before them. Or if they're dissatisfied, they'll go entirely the other way. So I think if we really want to inspire young people, we need to set an example. And when they see us dialoguing well and disagreeing well, they will fit into that space. We've also got to realize that coming generations dialogue very differently. They're willing to accept difference and to talk through it. Even within the Middle East, which, you know, we will have different cultures. So even in the Middle East context, people are more willing to dialogue now. So the more we present a vehicle to come together and to speak, and mentoring opportunities. This is why it's so good to have young people here, not just so that they can do the practical things, but so they can sit and watch and learn. That's how I learned. And that's how I try to teach people. And finally, I think we need to stop thinking of young people as the church of the future. They're also the church of the present, but not alone, because the church is diverse and varied. So they need to be the church of the present with people who are older than them, so you can have both contexts and both enrich each other.
Thanks, Your Eminence. And then we turn to His Grace Bishop Abraham, and then Dr. Pelé.
I want to add also to this the participation, as I mentioned, of the young people in different aspects in this event, being together, being among the others, theologians and professors, this is a kind to understand what does ecumenical mean, and also to understand this is the life of the church, because the youth is the life of the church. So if they can participate and can contribute it by even not on the discussion or the plenaries, but also the other aspects, as you see, many of the stewards are youth, and the most of them are very professionals. They left their jobs, they took time off of their work and come and dedicate their time to serve this event. At least it's a good lesson that there is a future for the church through the living of youth inside the church.
Thanks, Your Grace. And then we turn to Dr. Pelé, and then afterward we'll take the question online and finally in this room.
Well, I just want to say that, you know, just being here in Egypt and having an encounter with the Coptic Orthodox Church has been a real eye-opener for me to see how young people are so passionate about the church and about faith and about God. And I actually was asking them in these last few days, what is it that you're doing that you are so successful in getting young people? I mean, just right in this particular conference, there are young people present amongst us, and they are pharmacists, they are dentists, they are professional people. But they have come and left the jobs, as we've just heard, to come and spend time with us here to serve us. Something is beautiful about this. It's an expression of the faith. And that's what I want to say, is that young people are people of faith. And I just had the wonderful privilege of speaking at the Getty meetings that we've been having. And I was just profoundly moved by this level of engagement that young people were having and the questions that they were asking. And I can tell you this much, that the questions they are asking are a different set of questions that I was asking, or people in my generation was asking when we grew up. Deep-seated, powerful, faith-related questions that needs attempts of answering. Not to push away, but to say, how do we engage with you? How do we dialogue this together with you? And I think that's what we need to do. We need to bring young people into the space. We need to create that to be a safe space, but we also need to learn to help them to own the space. And therefore, the church needs to listen to what young people have to offer to us. They're not the church of tomorrow, as we just heard. They're the church of today. They're leaders of today. And we need to create space to listen to them, to take them seriously, because what they are saying is where the world is and where the world is going to. And if we don't stop to listen to them, then we might be very outdated in terms of where we should be as we reach them with the substance of our faith.
Thanks, Dr. Pelé. Your Eminence, Metropolitan Thomas.
I think we need to see how we make the young people very much engaged. It doesn't start when they are in their youth age. It starts when they were really young age. When they are babies, when they are very much children, that they will grow from within the church. I even would call that they started actually before they were born. I could see mothers talking to their babies in their wombs about Christ. And this is the issue, that how you create good young people that they will be active. It is started even before they were born. They are born in the church, from within the church. They grew up from within the church. That's why they are active today.
Thank you, Your Eminence. Then we turn to Germany, I think. Hans-Georg Link.
Well, thank you. Can you hear me?
Very well.
Good. I'm Pastor Link from Cologne, a former Faith and Order staff member. Now I'm the leader of the Altenberg Theological Group. I have, in fact, 3 concrete questions, very short, if I may. I will put them all one after the other. The first is going to General Pillai. The Central Committee met in Johannesburg in June, and I should like to know how they commemorated the Nicene Creed on June 19, the day of passing the Creed 700 years ago. What did you do about that in Johannesburg? My second question is to Andrzej Jeftic, the director of Faith and Order. We heard from Mrs. Kaunda mentioning song versions of the Creed in South Africa. My question is there any attempt in Faith and Order for a sung melody of the Creed for being used in congregations, not just choirs and concerts, but congregations in normal worship services? And my third question to the moderator of Faith and Order, Professor Dietrich, what recommendations for using the Nicene Creed in the churches will be given at the end of the conference? What do you have in mind to improve the churches and the Creed in their worship life? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Hans-Georg. I think we will begin with Dr. Pillai regarding Central Committee in Johannesburg, then we will turn to Dr. Jesnik and then Dr. Dietrich.
Yes, indeed. I mean, when the Central Committee met in Johannesburg, one of the central themes was focusing on faith. And of course, the Nicene Creed became a key focus for us. And we spent on the day that you just mentioned, we spent an entire day on that, but we had a very special plenary on the Nicene Creed, and the celebration came from different perspectives. We had many people coming to talk about the Nicene Creed and the whole aspect of unity. We had church leaders, we had people from a global perspective focusing on these things and talking about visible unity and where we go to with that from now. And so there was intense conversations about that, but we also ended up the session with a commitment, with all of us standing up and committing ourselves in terms of unity. But we also did some wonderful practical things where we used ribbons and many different colored ribbons, and we joined them up together and formed a connection where all of these things were joined together to make us feel the oneness of all the different streams and colors coming together and symbolically expressing how in faith we come together as different Christians from different church traditions. So indeed, to answer your question, the Central Committee spent a lot of time in the celebration of this and in observing and reinforcing the need for celebrating our visible unity, but also calling us into visible unity in a more deeper way.
Thank you, Dr. Pillai. Then we turn to Dr. Jeftik.
Thank you very much for the question. Recently or lately, we have been focusing very much on how to raise awareness of what Faith and Order has been doing or is doing at the moment. And in relation to that and the Council of Nicaea, this year's anniversary and the use of Nicene Creed, we have started by providing some of the resources that the churches or ecumenical institutions or educational institutions, for that matter, might use in order to raise awareness, not least about the creed itself, and if that it can be found useful and used then by the local church congregations as well. So we have produced an online course on Nicaea that is accessible and available to all of people globally, and that has been is being attended by, I think, already hundreds of participants. So I think the first step in that regard perhaps might be in that direction. But we plan to do a number of steps following in next year, not only in enhancing the reception of the outcomes of this World Conference, but also of facilitating the reception of some of the previous Faith and Order work, not least the one done in the 80s around the use and explication of the Nicene Creed. So I think this is part of the work that we can do from the Faith and Order Secretariat side. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we turn to Dr. Dietrich, the third and final question.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. I mean, where we are gathered here now, we very much work with the questions about how the Nicaea and the Nicene Creed, it's not just a historical event, but it's actually a creed, the Nicene Creed, that is interpreted and has to be interpreted, which is relevant for our faith and our life today. So somehow our conference is exactly focusing on how Nicaea actually can be experienced relevant for our faith and life today. We also, if you look into the liturgical life here, I think we are having 40 different songs, hymns, composed with the Nicene Creed as a text. So it becomes also a living aspect of our worship. Now, bringing it to the churches and the congregations, we are currently also working on a message, and at the end of the message, a call to the believers, which includes also a call to much more actively maybe than in some of our traditions to use the Nicene Creed in our worship and also on Sundays. Some traditions like the Roman Catholic and the Orthodox use the Nicene Creed a lot. The churches shaped by the Reformation are maybe not so good in really using the Nicene Creed, but this conference somehow, hopefully, is a contribution to lift up how relevant the creed and the tradition and our faith in Jesus Christ as it is explained in the Nicene Creed is for our churches today. So somehow this conference is an attempt to contribute also to the wider use of the Nicene Creed in the churches.
Thank you, Dr. Dries. Then over to Dr. Abs.
Well, I will not be answering any of the questions. I just would like to make a comment based on my experience and my living in the ecumenical family and my experience in working in the field with the Christian organizations. There is a evident trace between value deterioration and decay and social deterioration and decay and the Christian faith. And our main challenge is how to keep our Christian faith actual, to actualize it, to be able to produce new values, instrumental values, operational values, to help people deal with new news coming in the society, in the changing world, which is changing very rapidly. We're now at the era of the AI. We'll come to the era of the meta AI, and youth will be raising more questions. People will be lost, and so on. Not only the Christian faith, but only the Christian liturgy, the church liturgy, and the way they deal with youth, the way they deal with people should be changed too, because there are new means with which we can attract people and keep them in the faith. The number of churchgoers is decreasing worldwide. We have to pay attention to that. So we have a double-edged challenge to deal with it for the coming future. Otherwise, humanity is going towards a not very, very good future.
Thanks, Dr. Absan. We have the final question in this room.
Thank you. Philip Ryle from Sydney, Australia. I've recently orchestrated a book on Christian unity, a global book on Christian unity. Dr. Pillay, I often hear you use the word beauty, that is like beauty is the destination which will change the world, true beauty. And I'm just wondering whether the word visibility within this conference is deliberate, whether it's to do with removing the logs and planks from our own eyes so that we can see the beauty and therefore we can mourn well in order to dance well as a church. And I'm just wondering whether this idea that our destination of beauty begins with the place of humility, and whether you have some comments about that.
Did you say beauty?
Beauty.
Oh,
Dr. Pillay, try to explain.
It's my Aussie accent, I think.
But I mean, the idea of visibility is something that you see, right?
Mm.
And I think when people see, for example, in the early Christians, where the fact that they were walking together, working together, and the way they loved each other, the world around them was able to say, see how they love one another. That's the beauty of it. And this is what we're trying to show with regards to Christian unity. The visibility of that becomes the beauty of seeing. Oh, these Christians are living together. They're working together. See how they love one another. When Christians fight and when we rebel against each other and when we really go out in public to fight each other and show that we are in disunity, there's no beauty in that. The beauty is what we see, what we create a visibility of. And that is why I think when churches work together, as it is told for us in Psalm 133, how beautiful it is when Christians, when people of God dwell together in unity. And that's the beauty of it. And that's what we talk about when we talk about the visibility of Christian unity, is the beauty is seen when people, Christians, working together changes the world.
Thank you, Dr. Pelé. Then we have His Eminence Archbishop Angelos.
Thank you. I think, just jumping in, we often confuse soul searching and honesty with self-deprecation. We're constantly talking about when we get things wrong, how we get things wrong, why we get things wrong, and we don't celebrate. I mean, if God can celebrate us in our brokenness, then we should be able to celebrate what we're doing along a journey. And I think our eyes are masked sometimes because of two things. One is we don't understand our own strength. We don't understand how powerful the church is. And I mean the church as in the now fractured, yet decisively body of Christ. And when we stand together and speak together and do together, it's visible. And so I think, when we speak about visible unity, it's not about signing declarations and decrees, because some things, regrettably, and I hate to sound pessimistic, some things will not be resolved until the fullness of time, when we find out if we were right or we were wrong. Because for some areas, there's no compromise. But our power is in the continuity of the journey. You know, the whole thing, and it's been attributed to so many people about the destination is the journey. And the fact that we continue to journey together powerfully is what's important. And that's how, as we just heard, that is the power that we have and the hope that we have. If we keep diminishing our own hope, then the world will look at us at exactly the same way. And that comes from confidence. If I'm confident in my tradition and what I'm doing, I can dialogue with anyone. And from that confidence, share what I have and accept or reject what I hear, but still have the same amount of love and respect on a human basis.
Thank you very much. The time is flying, and we know that the panelists, they have other appointments, and so do the journalists. So I say thank you very much to each of the panelists. Thank you for taking the time, and we wish you all the best for the next coming days, and we are all waiting for the final message coming on Tuesday. So maybe the moderator of Faith and Order would say just 30 seconds about the message. What could we expect?
Well, you could expect a beautiful text telling how we envision our work for visible unity to be unfolded in the churches, in community, in the time coming. So we are working on this, and I hope we will produce a text which really will be used throughout the churches all over the world and inspire people to follow the journey, to join the pilgrimage towards visible unity.
Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to the technical team behind with Marcelo, Daniel, Klaus, and Albin, and others. And we will stay tuned. And in fact, there is a media briefing for the journalists with practical information how to cover the remaining part of the World Conference. So thank you very much, all of you.